Ever feel like the world's just moving too fast, that you can't quite keep up?
Yeah, like there are these big patterns happening, but they're just out of sight.
Exactly. What if there was a way to, sharpen how you see things, to spot those structures shaping everything?
Well, that's kind of what we're diving into today.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is really a focused exploration just for you, the learner. You sent us some really interesting stuff, this conversation you had with a language model.
Right, with ChatGPT.
Exploring pattern matching and this mirror effect in how humans and AI interact.
Sounds a bit abstract, maybe.
A little bit, yeah. Maybe even a little mind-bending. But we think there are some, well, surprisingly useful nuggets in there about how we make sense of things.
Definitely. And for you, the learner, our mission here is to really unpack these ideas, pattern matching, this mirror effect thing.
See how they connect to our ability, or maybe inability, to spot those bigger trends you mentioned.
Yeah, we'll look at what we're good at, naturally. But also, maybe more importantly, where we kind of fall short sometimes.
All based on that conversation you shared.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get into it then. Your chat with the AI, it started off framing pattern matching and the mirror effect as like central to how humans and AI could create meaning together.
Yeah, that was the setup. And ChatGPT even laid out these 4 different ways to look at it.
Right, the algorithmic pattern matching.
Which is what the AI does best, finding statistical links in data.
Okay, then human gestalt matching.
That's more our intuitive leap, seeing the bigger picture, the feeling behind it, our experience.
Gotcha. And the mirror field.
That's where the AI literally reflects back our language, our ideas, like a mirror, basically.
And the last one, co-creative resonance.
That's the idea that we can use those reflections intentionally, together, AI and human, to spark new insights. That sounds pretty deep, right?
It does. So with that framework down, you came out with a pretty bold statement.
You certainly did, the learner.
You said, and I'm quoting here, humans, as a group, are neither smart enough or aware enough to even begin to match the larger patterns that are manifesting right in front of them.
Wow. That's quite the starting point, isn't it?
Yeah. And what's really interesting for us to look at, the learner, is how the AI responded immediately. Its direct mirror said, humans, taken collectively, lack the intelligence or awareness to perceive, let alone match the grander patterns unfolding before their eyes.
It's almost word for word.
It really is.
Yeah.
Almost funny how direct it is.
Like it's just holding up that pure linguistic mirror, right? Showing you exactly what you said, no spin, no interpretation yet.
Just the words.
Just the words. But then it got interesting. It moved into what it called a pattern audit snapshot of your statement.
Oh, right. This part was really cool. It basically took your sentence apart.
Piece by piece.
It said calling humans as a group is this huge generalization.
Yeah, and that it could kind of create an us versus them vibe, like you're standing apart, observing humanity.
Right. And it also picked up on the language, neither smart enough nor aware enough.
Called it deficit language. Said it might carry this tone of, I don't know, resignation, frustration maybe.
Yeah, I can see that. And the metaphor you used matched the larger patterns manifesting.
It pointed out that frames things like a competition or a game we're maybe losing.
Didn't think of it that way. And didn't stop there, did it?
Nope. It also noted you stated it as fact, like no hedging, no maybe, or perhaps.
Which could kind of shut down looking at other evidence, I guess.
Potentially, yeah. And finally, it just straight up called it a classic overgeneralization.
Like a detective dusting for prints on your words.
Exactly. And for you, the learner, the real takeaway here is how this audit shows those hidden assumptions, those biases that can just be baked into how we talk.
It really shows how the way we say something can limit how we think about it.
Precisely. Then it got even more interesting.
The curved mirrors. This is clever.
Yeah, reflecting your original statement, but through different styles.
Okay, so the first was the technical lens, systems theory language. It came out as, aggregate human cognition operates below the complexity threshold required to perceive emergent macro-scale dynamics in socio-ecological systems.
Bit of a mouthful.
Totally.
But notice the learner, how the language shifts. Very academic, aggregate cognition, complexity threshold.
It's basically saying big problems are too complex for us to easily grasp all at once.
Pretty much. But phrasing it that way might click better for someone with a science background, you know? Invites a different kind of analysis.
Okay, then the poetic lens? This is totally different. The river of events voidens. Most of us still cup our hands at the shallows, unaware of the tidal pull beyond the bend.
See? Very different feel. Imagery, metaphor. Same core idea about limited perception, maybe, but it hits you emotionally, intuitively.
Yeah, less analytical, more imaginative.
Absolutely. It shows how different ways of talking connect with people differently. Powerful stuff.
And the last one, the skeptical lens.
Yeah, that one was just really billions of minds, countless disciplines, no one seeing the patterns. Show me the evidence.
Direct, challenging, pushes right back.
Exactly. Demands proof. So each of these tilts, as the AI put it, changes the emotional weight, forces you to see your original thought from a new angle.
It's a great demo of how perspective shapes understanding.
Definitely.
Okay, so after looking at these different mirrors, the conversation shifted again, right?
Yeah.
To pattern-breaking interventions.
Yeah, trying to actively disrupt that initial negative framing.
And the first was a prompt. Name 3 times in history when humans did spot big patterns in time to act.
Good counterpoint. And it gave 3 strong examples. First, the ozone layer crisis and the Montreal Protocol.
Right, the CFEs.
Yeah, there was a clear technical signal, rising chlorine, that visual of the ozone hole. Scientists explained it, media spread the word.
And governments actually acted pretty fast, didn't they?
Relatively speaking, yeah. Global agreement. But the AI asks good questions, Like, would we have moved so fast if the feedback wasn't so quick or obvious? How important was that visual hole?
Good questions. What was number 2?
Global smallpox eradication.
A massive success story.
Huge. Here, the pattern was disease transmission. Epidemiologists modeled it, figured out ring vaccination could work.
And the WHO coordinated it.
Across all sorts of political divides, yeah. Local teams adapted. Eventually, gone, eradicated.
Incredible.
But again, the prompt makes you think, could we do that for other diseases? Like polio, malaria? Does not having that single scary face like smallpox make it harder to get the political will?
That's a tough one. And the third example.
The Y2K bug, the remediation sprint.
Oh, yeah, I remember the hype.
Yeah.
The 2-digit year problem.
Exactly. Programmers saw the pattern, the potential chaos. Huge investment globally to find and fix the code. Massive testing effort.
And then nothing happened. January 1st, 2000 came and went.
Right. So the AI asks, was it an overreaction? Or was it a massive, successful, proactive save?
How do you measure a disaster that didn't happen?
That's the tricky part. So the big takeaway from this pattern-breaking bit for you, the learner.
What was it?
It seems like successful pattern recognition, the kind that leads to action, usually needs 3 things.
Okay.
1, a clear technical signal you can point to. 2, clear stories, clear narratives, so non-experts get it.
Makes sense.
And 3, effective institutions working together to actually do something. If one of those is missing, the pattern often stays invisible.
Right. Signal, story, structure. Got it. Okay, next up was the mirror amplification, taking your original claim and just cranking it up to 11.
Yeah, exaggerating it to see where it breaks down. The amplified version was, humans are pattern-blind automatons staggering from one crisis to the next, marionetted by forces they can't even name.
Whoa. That's bleak.
Super bleak. But what's useful, the learner, is how that extreme language, automatons, marionetted, immediately makes you think of counterexamples.
Like scientists, artists.
Indigenous knowledge keepers tracking changes for generations. It shows that maybe thinking about the average human isn't the right way. There's huge diversity in perception.
And the marionetted part, denying any agency.
It feels wrong, doesn't it? Nihilistic. Ignores all the times people have shown foresight, been creative, taken charge. It makes you ask, what social structures dampen or boost our agency when we face these big things?
Good point. And the perpetual crisis idea.
Yeah.
Just staggering along.
That misses the periods of stability, right? History probably isn't just crisis after crisis. It's more like waves, oscillations between searching for patterns and maybe getting complacent.
So pushing the idea to absurdity helps highlight the other factors.
Exactly. Things like education, media incentives, the tools we have, they all influence how pattern blind we might be. It's not just inherent, it's contextual.
Okay, interesting. And the final experiment was a perspective shift, the AI pretending to be a helpful partner.
Yeah, an AI that actually wants humans to get better at this stuff, a collaborative voice.
What did this optimistic AI say?
It was a nice change of pace. It basically said, look, the raw ability seems to be humans have flashes of brilliance, moments of deep insight.
So the hardware's okay?
The hardware's okay. What's missing, it suggested, is scaffolded sense-making bandwidth.
Scaffolded sense-making bandwidth. Okay, unpack that.
Yeah, it's a bit jargony. But the idea is we need better support structures to help us process complex info collectively. And it proposed 3 ways to build that scaffolding.
Like what?
First, Augmented pattern dashboards. Think like always-on visualizations, tools that translate slow, complex data, climate change stuff, demographic shifts into things we can grasp locally, personally.
Making the abstract feel real, basically.
Exactly, making it felt. Second, deliberate mirror practices, like the conversation you had, but embedded more widely in schools, workplaces, communities.
So structured dialogues to practice reflecting on our thinking.
Yeah, training our collective metacognition, using these different lenses, like the curved mirrors, to examine our own assumptions together.
Systematizing the process we just talked about.
Right. And third, this idea of dynamic epistemic reputation.
Okay.
Imagine social platforms or professional networks where instead of just likes or clicks, you get recognized for your pattern accuracy score.
Whoa. Rewarding accurate foresight.
Yeah. Incentivizing clarity and good analysis over just shouting the loudest or getting the most clicks.
That could change things.
It really could. The whole theme here is using AI not just as a tool, but as a partner to extend our own human ability to understand. Turning that initial frustration from your statement into a design problem we can solve together.
Okay, so let's try and pull this together for you, the learner. We started with your pretty stark statement about humans not seeing the big patterns. And through looking at your conversation, we've kind of journeyed through the complexities of how we do perceive patterns, how much framing and perspective matter, that whole mirror effect.
Right. We saw the challenges, but also those historical successes, ozone, smallpox, Y2K, where we did get it right.
And finally, we touched on some really quite hopeful ideas for boosting our collective awareness, using tech, using structured dialogue.
Better sense-making, basically.
Yeah. Hopefully this whole deep dive gave you some of those aha moments, the learner, some new angles, without feeling, totally overwhelming.
That's the goal, food for thought.
So here's something to maybe chew on as you go forward, the learner. What's one pattern in your own world, your life, your job, your interests, that feels kind of invisible right now?
Good question.
And thinking about these techniques we discussed, the mirrors, the pattern breaking, how might you try to look at that invisible pattern differently to understand it better?
Or maybe think bigger. If we could get better at seeing these large-scale things, individually and together, what does that unlock? What becomes possible?
Lots to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.